Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Radio OPAC, a weekly conversation series occurring Fridays at 11 a.m. Eastern Time over Facebook Live on the Ohio Prisoners Connection Facebook page. The day is June 19th, 2020, and a special welcome goes out to all of our audience members who are seeing this inside of a correctional institution. My name is Jared Small, and I am on the steering committee for the Ohio Prisoners Connection. Thank you for joining us, and I am here in conversation today with my friend Alma Robinson. Alma is the Executive Director of California Lawyers for the Arts, which is a nonprofit organization that empowers the creative community through education, through representation, and through dispute resolution. And again, I'm just very excited to have Alma here today as our guest. Hi, Alma, how are you doing today?
Good morning, Jared. Good morning, Ohio. It's really a pleasure to be with all of you this morning. Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of Radio OPAC.
Oh, it's our pleasure to have you as our guest, Alma. So today I thought we could talk just a bit about the landscape of corrections in Ohio, or excuse me, in California and Ohio, as well as a new national partnership initiative that was a grant from the National Endowment for the Arts to California Lawyers for the Arts, which involves Ohio. So a lot of exciting things to dive into, but I'm wondering if we could actually just take a step back and Alma, have you kind of introduce yourself, tell us a bit about who you are and maybe a bit about California Lawyers for the Arts.
Sure, happy to. I'll just start by saying that I grew up in North Carolina, went to college in Vermont, worked in Washington, D.C. as a journalist, and then found my way to law school in California. So I've been a native, not a true native of California, but I've been here long enough to get used to the weather and the vibe and the openness of spirit here. And when I was recruited to work at California Lawyers for the Arts, I was assigned to the job of setting up our dispute resolution program as a national model. And I think that experience has proved itself over and over again because it gave me impetus and resources to work with people in different states, just as we're doing now in our Arts and Corrections National Expansion Project. The organization is Lawyers for the Arts. Fundamentally, we provide legal services, education programs, advocacy, and again, alternative dispute resolution for artists and arts organizations. That takes us into a lot of interesting intersections. We have an arts and community development program that has worked since 1993 to place low-income kids in their first internships with arts organizations in San Francisco. That program just started last Friday for the summer, and like everything else, we're adapting to doing the workshops online. People are being asked to do their jobs and their working relationships online and through the internet and telephone. So it's always an adventure, but certainly this year is different and we're adapting in a lot of ways, as all of us are.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for that. You mentioned you've got quite the history, quite frankly, with working with CLA and just in the correction space in general in California. Can you give us a sense of the arts and correction space in California? What have you seen that works, and maybe what do you see that might need more attention in this day and age?
That's a great question. There's always more to do. We got involved in 2003 with trying to restore funding for the California Arts Council. The State Arts Council budget in California had been reduced by 93% to a bare bones budget of $1.1 million from the state, matched by $1 million from the NEA and $3 million or so from sales of artistic license plates. So we were working for about 10 years to try to raise awareness of the value of the arts. We had arts and healthy community symposia, arts and environmental dialogues. And in 2011, we started a new Arts and Corrections initiative, which was designed to demonstrate the importance and significance of the arts for people who are incarcerated. We developed pre and post evaluation as part of an evidence-based research strategy, which we then took to the state legislature and to the State Department of Corrections, California Arts Council. The result was a $2.5 million pilot project providing arts programs in 20 state prisons. And eventually that program was expanded to an $8 million project in all 35 state prisons. And I have to say that we built on some tremendous work that was being done largely through volunteers and small foundation grants by the William James Association, by the Actors Gang, and other organizations in California. But we pulled all of our resources together and made a big statement through the research, which was guided by a wonderful professor from University of San Francisco, Dr. Larry Brewster. We continue to work with Larry, and you asked what remains to be done. We had a 3-year demonstration project about the benefit of arts programs in county jails, which was also quite successful in showing that people who have even limited arts engagement, limited to 10 to 15 weeks or so of arts programs in correctional institutions, have so many, show so many changes in their behavior, their attitude about themselves and about other people. They get interested in learning, they build self-confidence, they learn emotional management and time management tools. And so we convinced the legislature earlier on that this was a cheap medicine, that they really should invest in this. And they bought our strategy, invested in state prisons, but now we're trying to get this investment to be expanded to people in county jails. In California, more people are being held longer in county jails because of the overcrowding of the state prison system. And now our governor wants to close 2 prisons, and because of COVID, many more people are being released. And we're looking at that situation to see if there might be an opportunity to help get some of the people who've been engaged in the arts out earlier. So there's plenty to do.
Yes, plenty, no doubt. And the work certainly continues both in the state prisons and now the county jails. You mentioned Dr. Larry Brewster and the importance of research throughout all of this. And what I kind of gather is that evidence-based research is kind of the name of the game in order to approach the legislature, the governor, or whomever to make the case to support arts and corrections. I just want to give a shout out to Dr. Brewster and just the idea of how key data is playing a role and has played a role in California in making all of this happen. And it continues to. I know Larry's still active and still helps out with the research.
He is. He's a wonderful guide for all of us. Yeah. And he's very generous and compassionate.
Yes. Speaking of, I know he's also playing a small role with the national. Now, you know, we're moving now from California to the national initiative of, you know, taking what you've accomplished in California and more or less replicating it in 5 states around the country. And I mentioned earlier that Ohio was one of those. Alma, can you walk us through this national demonstration project that's being funded by the National Endowment for the Arts? Maybe at the core, we can start with what is it, what's happening, and maybe how did it come about to start?
We started with having national conferences, actually, and I'm so pleased that your director, Donna Collins, attended our first national conference at USF in 2015, where we invited anybody that was interested from all around the country to come and talk about arts and corrections. We've since had 2 more national conferences, and started to see that there were opportunities in places like Ohio, New York, Texas, Louisiana, and Michigan, which are the 5 states we're working with currently with our NEA grant, to see if we can help develop programs, provide technical assistance, and some resources from our NEA grant and other funding that we're raising. We just got a grant from the Warhol Foundation to help support this project as well through the next year. Of course, we're on hold right now, so I'm really grateful for this opportunity to participate in what you're doing in Ohio, even through this radio show, which I think is a really exciting opportunity to reach people that are interested in this topic. The basic concept is that if we are able to succeed with evidence-based demonstration projects, we will be able to make the case to state legislatures, to your Department of Corrections, and people who are interested in the arts about the need to fund these programs. And eventually, they will also understand the significance of arts education for everybody. I've had conversations with men inside at San Quentin, for example, and I've asked them after some tremendous show that's put on by Marin Shakespeare. They do 1 Shakespearean drama a year. And I've asked a couple of times, do you think you would be here if you had had this kind of education when you were younger, when you were in school? And often the answer is thoughtful. And they say, no, I don't think I would be here, because they understand that the value of the arts education is something that touches their spirit. It helps them decide who they are and what their values are in a way that other learning doesn't necessarily provide. You don't learn values from learning math. Well, you do. You learn math values.
Right.
But that doesn't necessarily tell you how to behave as a human being in the world and how you want to extend your knowledge to others, to help others. The empathy that comes from theater, for example, or the teamwork from music, from movement, is just, it can't be measured. And so we said, well, we have to measure it. We have to measure it because these days, good stories are not enough. You also need data to back it up. And when you see discipline rates going down among people who have been involved in the arts, and that's really important. In fact, Larry did a study in 1983. It was a cost-benefit analysis of how people who are involved in the arts inside are less likely to be involved in disciplinary incidents. Disciplinary incidents cost money, and so he measured that. And then he was able to sustain arts and corrections in California for quite a while, just based on that one survey, and we still refer to it.
Right.
Yeah. Really important, and we can't do that kind of research now because of privacy issues, and we can't necessarily get to everybody's disciplinary records. We have to ask them, which is good. Have you had any disciplinary incidents since you've been involved in the arts program? That sort of question. Right. But that's self-reporting. But people see the difference. The people who are the correctional officers see the difference. Quick story out of New York. We were able to get the first demonstration project completed in February. It was a 12-week drawing and pastel class at Ulster State in New York. And the results were just amazing. We're still measuring the concrete event, the numbers that came out of our pre and post surveys. But the more interesting thing happened before the program was even finished. The State Department of Corrections asked our contact, who is Donna Collins Peer, the director of State Arts Council in New York, if she could place these programs in 5 more state prisons around New York. And that's exactly what we're aiming to achieve.
Mhm.
It's going to be difficult in this environment because of the health issues, because of the public funding issues, which actually make our funding even more significant.
Right.
Because we know that if we can demonstrate this now, in spite of all these obstacles, when things turn right side up again, we'll have a great story to tell.
That's really well said. And yes, a big congrats to our friends in New York for taking a big step, right, in the right direction through this initiative, though. I think a lot to be grateful for, and you and the California Lawyers for the Arts team providing that kind of assistance. Just extraordinary, really. So
I also want to do a shout out to the Art for Justice Fund, which
yes.
funded our work, funded our last conference that you attended. We had an Ohio showcase, and we're able to bring people together from all over the country to talk about how they could move these programs forward where they are. So that was an important effort as well. So
That's
thank
great.
you for your leadership, Jared.
Oh yeah, it takes a village. We appreciate the partnership to date. You know, if anyone's just joining us on the Facebook stream, I am in conversation with Alma Robinson, who is the executive director at California Lawyers for the Arts. And we're talking just a bit about a national arts and corrections demonstration project happening in 5 states, one of them being Ohio. And Alma, you know, if you could blue sky for a moment, you know, after this calendar year wraps up and we're looking past, you know, next year and down the line, what is your hope for the arts and corrections programming around the country? You know, not just in California, not just Ohio or the 4 other states we mentioned, but nationally. You know, where is the conversation headed, or where would you like it to head? And what can we do about it? You know, for folks sitting there and perhaps not a major urban center, or someone, an artist who'd like to get involved, you know, how can we tap into this momentum that's starting to be established here? But that's a 2-part question, really. One is, what's kind of your dream? And 2, how can folks tap into that dream?
Well, for the short term, we're all eager to get past COVID so that we can have arts programs inside prisons again.
Mm-hmm.
And currently there are artists. There's a group called the Justice Arts Coalition. People should look up. They're interested in learning more about how artists are working through the walls now, mailing in curriculum guides and receiving drawings back and so forth. And by the way, we also published some curricula from artists that had taught classes at our conferences on our website at calauyersforthearts.org. If anybody's interested in knowing more about this story and some tools and resources that we have put online to share. But we don't think it's a good time to start new programs. I mean, there's a lot of relationship building that has to take place in order to build the trust and interest of the corrections officials and to bring them to the same understanding with state arts council, with local arts councils. We're working in a variety of ways in different states. In Louisiana, for example, we did a kickoff in January, and they had actually just started a program in one of the parish jails, and of course then COVID. Louisiana's also hoping to have our next national conference, and we'd love to support that at Louisiana State University in the summer of 2021. So looking forward to that. And also hoping that we can survey states and see who else is interested. We've had some inquiries from other states beyond this first set of 5. And we hope to be able to expand incrementally, of course. The program in California, I would say the demonstration project took about 3 years to result in this first agreement between the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation and the California Arts Council, which created funding for artists to work inside. And there are important rehabilitation benefits, and we need to keep bringing that to the policymakers so that they understand the benefit of continuing this even in this dire time. Looking way ahead, what is the blue sky? The blue sky would be that we don't have so many people incarcerated in our country. We are learning how to be better advocates through our participation in Art for Justice networks and cohort groups, and to advocate for no money bail, for shorter sentencing, for more just prosecution, less racial inequity, more empathy. We just saw a man run down and shot by the police because he was sleeping it off in his car. And you have to wonder how that could have happened. If he was white, would the police have done that to him? Would they be trying to arrest him, or would they be trying to get him into the hospital? He obviously had some sort of a medical issue. And so I think to correct all of this systemic racial tension and prejudice is going to take all hands on deck. And when that happens, we won't have so many episodes like this. We won't have so many people locked up for nonviolent offenses or disagreements that became violent but didn't need to. I think we have a lot to fix up, and I think artists have the vision and the imagination to try to help. And so I think really blue sky would be a more just America, a more perfect union.
Yeah, thanks, Alma. You know, we like to close every episode of Radio OPAC with what we call a moment of reflection. And it's really just a chance to take a deep breath together and exhale. And I understand that you have something to share with us for the moment of reflection. So we would love to hear from it. And while you pull it up on your screen, just want to tell folks that we are having an audience talkback immediately following this conversation, the link for which will be below in the comments on the Facebook feed. So feel free to give that a click, and we will chat with you in just a moment. But for now, Alma, would love to have you share whatever you'd like for our moment of reflection.
Thanks, Jared. It's really great to be with all of you today. I wrote a piece reflecting on the theme, I Can't Breathe, and I'd like to share that with you all. Recently, I saw the movie Titanic again. While I was watching, this classic seemed like a metaphor for our times, that we were cruising inevitably towards an unforeseen crash that was unlike anything we expected. And sure enough, just as we were beginning to reopen commerce and celebrate a comeback of sorts from the ravages of COVID-19, we stumbled into a tidal wave of reactions, currents and countercurrents, brought to light through the global witness of a man's life being ground out while he murmured, I can't breathe. Somehow we must learn to breathe again, and we must do it collectively. We know that the arts have a role to play to recreate the forces of civilization while inspiring our better angels. The arts can teach us how to breathe together, to tune the collective chords of wisdom, of veracity, and of empathy that will reveal the visions of a better future that we need to survive these dispirited times. Let's not let George Floyd's unwilling sacrifice pass without doing our part to overcome this tragedy that is roiling our nation. A cache of lifeboats reserved for the few on the top deck will not help if we don't reach out to save everyone.
Thank you for that, Alma. Thank you for sharing. Folks on the live feed, We are going to join the audience talkback in just a moment, so feel free to give that link a click. In the meantime, Alma, thank you again for joining us for Radio OPAC. It's a pleasure and honor to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I love working with you. You know that.
We enjoy it.
Chapter. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, we'll see you all in the talkback. For now, have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Ciao.